webinar on investor awareness. This program is being organized by the Committee on Capital Market and Investors Protection (ICAI) and is being hosted by Ernakulam branch of SARC of ICAI. On the third day today, we have with us a very learned speaker. May I request our chairman of Ernakulam branch, C. Ranjit R. Warrier, to kindly welcome our speaker as well as the participants. Over to you, chairman.
Thank you, Rita madam. Very good afternoon to all of you. Very respected speaker for this evening session, Deena Venu madam, my eminent managing committee colleagues and respected participants joining us from across the country. Welcoming each one of you to this final day, if I can say, of this virtual seminar or virtual webinar on investor awareness, where we've had a very good 2 days of great learning of great topics. In fact, first day by Vineet Dev from Pune, who gave us a great insight into a very clear insight into the startup investments and everything to do with startup investments. And yesterday we had Rudramurthy ji from Bangalore, another chartered accountant, who gave us another great insight into the various investment angles that an auditor perspective should be looking into, or rather an investor perspective should be looking into. For me personally, I think today's topic would be one of the most interesting topics that we would look forward to. I personally feel of the opinion that even when I was requesting to the Central Committee, where investment into infrastructure trusts is something that real estate trusts as well is something that probably has not received much of its due recognition or much of its awareness amongst at least this part of the country, if I might say that. And probably it is for the first time that we are also bringing in a topic like this. And when we also ventured into the speakers that we could request for, and we could find nobody better than probably Deena Venu madam, who's the DGM of SEBI, and probably we'll hear it from the horse's mouth today as to the in and out of this very relevant and very interesting topic. It was also a great surprise, pleasant surprise to know that she is a Malayali from Kollam, though settled in Mumbai. So it was a very pleasant surprise when Victoria madam from our office called her, and they started speaking in Malayalam, and that was a great thing to know. Wholeheartedly welcoming Deena madam to enlighten our respective members and all of us on the great topic today. We are also joined by my eminent managing committee colleagues, Secretary of the branch Deepa Varghese, Vice Chairman CA KV Jose sir, immediate past Chairman Roy Varghese sir. Wholeheartedly welcoming my managing committee colleagues to the topic today, and very eminent respected members, participants who's going to join us. We see few in count. We'll hopefully see, like yesterday, even bigger crowd to join us soon. We have members attending. Very good thing to see, very happy thing to see that we have members joining in from across the country because of the importance that of this relevant topic, and also of the reason that it is hosted, organized by the Central Committee. So wholeheartedly welcoming my very eminent and very respected participants, chartered accountants and others to this third day of the webinar today. Pretty much it. Let's have, let us, without taking much of time, let's take a deep dive into the topic. Eagerly waiting to listen to Deena madam. Let me hand it over back to Deepa Varghese for the proceedings. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman. It's my pleasure and pride privilege to introduce Dr. Deena Venu. Dr. Deena Venu is working with the stock market regulator, SEBI, for the last 17 years. She's worked extensively in mutual funds department, market intermediaries department, and investigations department. Currently, Madam is a Deputy General Manager heading the Division of Debt and Hybrid Securities, which regulates and registers real estate investment trusts, infrastructure investment trust, green bonds, securitized debt, and municipal bonds. She was involved in the development of many policies in mutual funds and exchange traded funds, that is ETFs as we know, which includes categorization of mutual fund schemes, development of riskometer, total return index, norms for ETFs, etc. Madam had completed her master's degree in economics from University of Kerala and holds a PhD in economics from the University of Kerala. With these words, may I request Dr. Dina Venu to kindly commence a deliberation on Real Estate Investment Trust and Infrastructure Investment Trust, Untapped Potential. Over to you, ma'am.
Thank you everyone for giving me this opportunity. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Firstly, let me thank the organizers, a special mention to Mr. Ranjit Warrior for inviting me here in this investor awareness program organized by the Committee of Capital Market and Protection, Investor Protection ICAI. Now, leaving aside the limitations of addressing this session, having the session through a virtual mode, I will try to share the thoughts that I know on this topic which is assigned to me. I hope I can do justice to whatever introduction that was given to me about me. So I'm just sharing my screen because I have a PPT. So I will be speaking on the untapped potential of a new asset class which is available for investment, which is real estate investment trust, commonly known as REITs, and infrastructure investment trust, which is known as InvITs. Now, before I start this topic, I would like to give a disclaimer.
We can't hear you, ma'am.
Can't hear me?
Yeah, now it's right. Fine. Now it's fine. Thank you. Again, we can't hear you, ma'am. No. No.
Now, going on to the topic, finance is the lifeblood of business and is a very dynamic field. Securities market, which is a part of finance, is equally dynamic or even more dynamic. Predominantly, bank finance used to be the source of funding for companies. But today we see there is a vast change. A lot of companies are coming into capital markets for their corporate needs. So what the systems which existed a decade ago is not what is today. We have moved from physical trading into electronic trading. A lot of new products have emerged, new strategies have evolved. Now, with time, securities market will not only be transformed, but also be branched out into different areas. Now, today we have in securities market, we have equity products, we have debt products, we have derivative products. I'm sure all of you are familiar with these three products, but there is a new asset class which has come, which is called hybrid products, which is a mix of debt and equity. So REITs and InvITs fall under this category of hybrid instruments. So REITs and InvITs are established as business trust. I'll go into it a little later. So REITs and InvITs are, I earlier said they're hybrid products. Why are they called hybrid products? They're hybrid products because they have features of both fixed income and equity. So they give a regular and a growing cash yield, and also there is an appreciation of increasing the valuation. Now, all of you must be aware that there are two most critical sectors in any developing economy are infrastructure and real estate. A well-developed infrastructural setup propels the overall development of a country. It also facilitates a steady inflow of private and foreign investments and augments the capital base available for growth for the key sectors of an economy, and that too in a sustained manner. Similarly, a robust real estate sector comprising of subsegments such as housing, retail, hospitality, commercial projects as well as niche subsections such as affordable housing, senior housing are fundamental to the growth of an economy. Now, developing these sectors will create multiple layer effect on the economy. So we have the products that I'm going to introduce here are REITs and InvITs, where the underlying investment are real estate or infrastructure. I will explain to you during the course of presentation how the products are structured and how it is an investment avenue for all investors, and also the advantages and disadvantages, benefits, and also the risk involved in investing in these products. Firstly, since real estate is the area that is familiar to all of us, because I'm sure a lot of us have investment in real estate. Maybe we have houses, and we, for our own consumption, also we have houses which we earn a rent from. So I think that taking that into consideration, I thought I would first explain the real estate investment trust, where the underlying investment is the real estate. Now, real estate investment trust, there's a regulatory mandate from SEBI, which I'll come into later. It is very similar to mutual fund, which I'm sure all of us are aware of. So it is also basically pooling of money from investors and then investing in real estates. It's a trust-based investment vehicle. The REITs will own, operate, and manage a portfolio of income-generating and real estate assets. The REITs will give investors access to the benefits of owning a real estate in small ticket sizes. You will get a regular income and capital appreciation, and it is also a liquid product in the sense that the product is listed and traded on stock exchanges. And there is mandatory registration from SEBI registration with SEBI is mandatory. So each of these things will be explained to you in the due course. First, let us see what a REIT is. So REIT is established as a trust. It is not established as a company. It's established as a trust, a business trust. So there will be there will be investors who will be pooling in money and buying the REIT assets, the REIT units. It is not shares, because it's not company, it's not shares. It will be REITs, and that money is used by the trust buy commercial properties. They can even buy hotels, hospitals, housing, any kind of property which will generate a rent or income. The rental income which comes from these properties will come back to the trust, and then from the trust it goes back to the investors as in the form of dividend and capital appreciation. So how is a REIT set up? A REIT is set up almost similar to how a mutual fund is set up. In the case of a mutual fund, there's a sponsor. We can call it close to, as a company set up by a promoter. A REIT or a mutual fund is set up by a sponsor who will set up the REIT as a trust. Now, he will set up a trustee. The trustee will manage the affairs of the REIT. And there will be a manager who will manage the assets and do the day-to-day activities, take investment decisions on behalf of the trust. The trust will monitor the activities of the manager. So basically the assets will be pooled, and there will be a trustee who monitors the assets, and the trustee holds the assets for the unit holders, which is the common man. And then there will be a manager who manages the day-to-day affairs and does investment decisions for the REIT. In the case of mutual fund, we have an asset management company which does the management of your funds by investing in stocks or debentures, as the case may be. And there will be a fund manager who makes investment decisions for you. Here, a manager does the investment decision. Now, how the assets are held in the trust? The assets are held in the trust. The trust can hold the assets directly. The trust can hold the assets in through SPVs or special purpose vehicles. It can hold the assets through holding company also. So the sponsor, he sets up the trust. He has a lock-in period of 3 years, mandatory 15% holding, and the units are subscribed by the unit holders. So whatever rental income accrues to this properties comes back to the trust and is distributed to the unit holders. So I've given the cash flow. The SPVs will generate income. The assets held in SPVs will generate the income. It passes on to the trust, and the trust distributes the money to the unit holders. So each of the constituents of the REIT is the follows. One is the sponsor. He is the one who sets up this whole REIT. He will transfer his holdings into the SPV or the holding, whatever structure you choose. Today we have seen that, they mostly hold it in SPVs only. And the sponsor will appoint the trustee. The sponsor has no role after that. It is the trustee who will hold the assets on behalf of the unit holders. The trustee will monitor the activities of the manager and ensure that this REIT functions in accordance with the provisions of SEBI regulation. It is mandatory that all REITs have to obtain SEBI registration. The manager does the strategic decision, is a strategic decision of the REIT. He will look into the acquisition of assets, divestment of assets. In case more assets are required, he will be responsible for the day-to-day activities. He takes a decision on behalf of unit holders. He makes various disclosures which a unit holder has to know, and also any investor complaints which the unit holders raise. Now, today, as on date, there are 4 registered REITs in our country. REITs have been very popular across the globe. In fact, in United States of America, it is in existence for more than 70 years. But in our country, I think the first REITs is maybe 3 to 4 years old. So I've just given the structure, and the 3 REITs that have issued units are Mindspace, Embassy REITs, and Brookfield REITs. IIFL REITs has obtained registration from SEBI, but they have not issued any units to. So just for information purpose, I have just shown the structure of how Mindspace REITs has been set up. So the sponsor of Mindspace REITs are Anby Construction LLP and Cape Trading. So they have floated a trust which the trust has to be a debenture trustee which is registered under SEBI. So in the case of Mindspace, the debenture trustee is IDBI Trustee Services Limited. The manager is K. Raheja Corporation Investment Managers LLP, and the name of the REIT is Mindspace Business Park REIT. The REIT holds around 8 assets, and the assets generate income. It is all commercial properties. In India, we have only commercial REITs. There is no prohibition on having housing REITs, but nobody has launched a housing REIT or a warehouse REIT or a go down REIT or something like that. There is no prohibition as such, but today till date nobody has launched a REIT. And the unit holders of the REIT get the rental income comes back from the SPV to the unit holder. It is passed through the trust. Now, this is something of importance as an investor. How do you get the money back? You have invested. I invested a lump sum in REITs. So how do I get my money back? There's a rental income which accrues to the real estate properties, which comes back to the REIT, and it is distributed back to the unit holders in proportion to your holding. So the SEBI regulations mandate that at least 90% of the rental income or the income accrued has to be distributed. You can keep only 10%. The REIT can keep only 10% for its maintenance, depreciation, and other activities. Now, what assets can a REIT own? It has to be an income generating or a rental income generating asset. It can be commercial assets, housing, hotels, malls, healthcare like hospitals. REITs cannot be launched on a vacant land or agricultural land. That is prohibited. Another rule that to prevent, to minimize the risk, there's a SEBI mandate that 80% has to be in fully constructed projects, and only 20% of the assets can be under construction or shares of real estate companies or in mortgage-backed securities. 80% has to be in fully constructed and assets and income generating assets. We have this norm so that the risk that the investor have is minimized, because once a property is under construction, the risk of it not completing is very large. So to take care of that, this norm is introduced. Now, what are the benefits of investing in REITs? So this is something that I would like to explain. So if you want to buy a commercial property, I think we all need big pockets for that, because a commercial property, I can buy a house, a residential property, common man can afford. But if I have to buy a commercial property or a large rental property, a hospital, I need a big pocket for that. But if I buy a REIT, I can invest even 1 unit in REIT. With the limited amount of investment, I earn a rental income which is accruing to the commercial property. For example, to buy a shopping mall would cost me crores of rupees. If I own a REIT which has underlying as a shopping mall, the rental income which comes from the shops in the mall will accrue back to me by way of REIT. So the rental income will come to the trust, and because I have units, in that proportion, the rental income will come back to me. So if I have 100 units of REIT where the underlying is a shopping mall, to that extent, I will get, to the extent of my unit holding, I will get a share of the rental income. Secondly, these units of REITs are listed and traded on stock exchanges. So if I want to buy from the stock exchange, that option is available. If I want to sell in the stock exchange also, the option is available. Now, transparency. Because of all the offer documents and the disclosures made by the REITs, due to regulatory mandate, the investor is able to read and obtain information about the underlying assets and the way the REIT is functioning. So there's a lot of transparency. And the distribution. The REIT does not have an option of distribution. 90%, minimum 90% has to be distributed. And that too, mandatorily, you have to distribute every half yearly. But it is seen that, on a quarterly basis only, most of the existing REITs distribute the dividends. Additionally, the property prices also will increase. So there will be capital appreciation. So you will get the capital appreciation also. This next is its diversification, because it's a new product as compared to the existing products of equity and debt. So there's a diversification. So if you want exposure in real estate, this is a route which people can invest. Investors can explore and invest the funds. A small comparative analysis I've done. So alternatives to REIT is direct investment, where the ticket size is very high. You need large chunk of money, and moreover, it is illiquid. Owning a real estate property is illiquid, but owning a REIT, I can liquidate it in the stock market. Owning the real estate property, I need a big pocket. I can invest in small ticket sizes using REITs. There's no entry and exit load. The REIT is professionally managed by the manager of the REIT, who will be an experienced person. Now, something I missed, I think, in the earlier slide is the sponsor, the manager. need to have relevant requisite experience, which is mandated in SEBI regulations. These are put in place to ensure that the person who launches the REIT does a professional management of the REIT. I can also buy real estate equity shares, which is also freely transferable. However, the returns I get from it is not mandatory. But in the case of REIT, it will be mandatory returns because the rule says that with every half year, you have to distribute your returns. The tax efficiency, because the dividends on certain conditions are tax exempt for REITs, but the dividends are taxable for real estate equity shares. This disclosures which is being presented are available to investors. The earnings material, the earnings call, the half-yearly reports, the valuation reports are made public. Most of the important decisions with regard to the REIT, you need unit holders approval, including increasing borrowing and some major functioning. Unit holders approval is required. So the unit holders an active say in the working of the REIT, and it is mandatory to have annual meeting once a year. 3 REITs are currently have issued units. One is Embassy, I told you, one is Mindspace, and one is Brookfield. And all of them have invested in commercial real estate. IIFL Real Estate has obtained registration, but they have not issued any units. We are hoping that more REITs come in this segment and gets registered and issued units, taking into account, housing, hospitals, hotels, so that there will be many REITs in the market, and then it gives an option to choose for an investor to choose which REIT you want to invest, like the equity shares of company. Today, it is at a very nascent stage. Similar to REITs, there is another product called infrastructure. Infrastructure assets are actually are mostly government owned, and you can't get exposure to infrastructure assets very easily. So this product, Infrastructure Investment Trust, gives you the opportunity to invest in infrastructure assets through units. It is also structured similar to REITs. So infrastructure, it is also a trust-based investment vehicle. It's set up as a trust and not as a company. You have exposure to diversified infrastructure assets. So by diversified infrastructure assets, it can be roads, toll roads, power transmission units, renewable energy, gas pipelines. So there are a lot of infrastructure assets where the Infrastructure Investment Trust can launch and invest. The assets, because of the monetization of these assets, this will free the developer's capital. Similar in the case of REITs also, once the assets are monetized, the sponsor monetizes the assets. The capital of the sponsor frees up. So that can be used for further development. SEBI regulations have been there from 2014. So InvITs are also like mutual funds where you pool the investment and then you buy the infrastructure assets. So infrastructure assets can be highways, roads, pipelines, power plants, warehouses, large warehouses. Similar to REITs, the advantages, you get a regular income and plus there's a capital appreciation. Again, registration is mandatory with SEBI. There are defined eligibility norms for sponsor, investment manager. The assets are to be held either directly by the trust or you can hold it through an SPV or a holding company. And there's a minimum offer size, which is there for REITs. Also, it is 250 crore. The structure of the InvIT is that, again, it is set up by a sponsor who will float the InvIT. The underlying will be held through special purpose vehicles, which will hold the infrastructure assets. There will be a trustee who manages the assets of the InvITs. Here, There will be investment manager who does the day-to-day activities. Similar to a manager in REITs, here you have an investment manager. Also, you heard, unlike REITs, here you have a project manager who will undertake the operations and manage the InvIT assets. The sponsor will set up the InvIT. He will transfer the holdings to the SPV. He will appoint a trustee, and the role of the sponsor ends. There's a lock-in period for a sponsor for 3 years, and the sponsor is required to hold minimum 15% capital, unit capital. So this is to ensure skin in the game, so that, you know, the sponsor is there for 3 years till the InvIT is fully functional and the investors have confidence in the InvIT. There's a trustee who will hold the assets for the unit holders. There will be an investment manager who makes strategic decisions for the InvITs. The day-to-day activities are being done here in the case by the project manager, which is not there in the case of REITs. So here I have taken the IRB InvIT, where the underlying asset is the toll roads. So there are some around 5 to 6 toll roads which are pooled together. The tolls which come, the tolls which we pay when we go travel by some toll roads is accrues to the InvIT, and that comes back to the unit holder. The investment manager is IRB Infrastructure Private Limited, and the trustee is a debenture, SEBI registered debenture trustee, which is IDBI Trustee Services Private Limited. Now the trustee and the InvIT, there is a trust deed which is executed, where all rules and all the conditions are mentioned. The investment manager and the InvIT enter into an investment management agreement, and the project manager and the InvIT enter into a project management agreement. So the cash inflows, be it from transmission projects, gas pipelines, highways, the toll roads, accrue to the InvIT, and then it is distributed to the unit holders. The distribution has to be done mandatorily every half yearly, and 90% has to be compulsorily distributed to the unit holders. Only 10% can be retained, and that is for depreciation and maintenance of the assets. Unlike REITs, REITs have to be listed and traded on a stock exchange. In the case of InvITs, there are two segments. There's listed InvITs and there's unlisted InvITs. Unlisted InvITs are not to be traded on stock exchange. There are only two unlisted InvITs, IRB and I think Digital Fiber, IRB and Digital Fiber, but most of the InvITs are listed. Even in the listed space of InvITs, there are two categories. It can be publicly listed or it can be privately listed. Privately listed means it will be minimum 5 investors to up to 20 investors, 1,000 investors. And in the case of public InvIT, there should be minimum 20 investors. So as on date, there are 3 public InvITs, which is one is IRB, which does the collection of tolls and highways. There is InGrid, which is power transmission, and then there is Power Grid, which is again into power transmission, which Power Grid is a PSU. Where can an InvIT have its assets? 80% has to be in completed revenue generating infrastructure projects. Now, what assets classify as an infrastructure projects is determined by the government. The government publishes a harmonized list of infrastructure. Only those assets qualify to be an infrastructure asset. And 80% has to be on completed and revenue generating infrastructure projects. 20% can be on under construction infrastructure project, unlisted or unlisted debt of companies, equity of infrastructure companies, where 80% of the income should come from infrastructure sector. And also some portion can be in government securities, money market instruments, liquid mutual funds, and cash equivalents. However, in the case of privately listed InvITs, the asset mix is slightly different. You can also invest in under construction projects because it is privately held. The ticket size is more for privately listed InvITs. Now, what are the key features of the InvITs? One is predominantly, as I said, it will be revenue generating infrastructure project. The distribution is mandatory. 90% has to be distributed. Whatever income you get, earn over a period in every half year has to be 90% has to be distributed back to the unit holders. The corporate governance is strong for REITs and InvITs because we say that more than 50% of the directors of the trustee have to be independent. REITs and InvITs are tax efficient vehicles. Even for leverage is permitted in InvITs. More borrowing is permitted, but that leverage can happen only with unit holders' approval and some other conditions like mandatory distribution for the last 6 times. Unit holders, all material acquisitions, all material decisions, any change in sponsor, any borrowing, any new appointment of investment manager, director, the unit holders' approval is mandatory. This ensures that the unit holders are kept aware of the changes that happen in the InvIT. The income generated from the underlying assets, as I said, comes back into the InvIT, and that is distributed into the to the unit holders of the InvIT. 90% has to be distributed of the what cash flows has to be distributed on a half-yearly basis. If you see the InvITs, many InvITs are there today. 15 InvITs have obtained registration from SEBI. Many of them have launched units, but most of them are privately listed. The publicly listed ones are the IRB InvIT, Power Grid, and India Grid. Power Grid and India Grid are power assets, and IRB collects the roads. Now, if you see the sector, roads form a major portion of the InvITs, the toll roads. So the tolls which they collect in the roads accrues to the trust, and the trust passes it to the unit holders. So the main advantage of having this structure is the developer freezes capital. The capital is passed on, so his books become free. So he will have more money to develop more projects. Power Grid and India Grid have come up with power projects. Digital fiber and tower infrastructure is telecom projects. And Virisant is renewable energy, and India Infrastructure Trust is gas pipeline. So various kind of infrastructure projects, various sectors have come into InvITs. Now, as an investor, who can invest in REITs and InvITs? Any investor, foreign, domestic, retail, institutional, can invest in units of REITs and InvITs in India. The minimum subscription in an IPO is similar to equity, 10,000 to 15,000, and trading lot is 1 unit. So to purchase a REIT or InvIT unit, similar equity, you need to purchase your shares. So for whom is it suitable? It is suitable for people who want to take away the returns and the capital appreciation and the rental income, or the rental income which accrues to projects, infrastructure projects, or real estate. So if you want to get the income which is accruing to the real estate segment in the form of rent, or the income which accrues to infrastructure assets, you can take exposure in REITs and InvITs in smaller ticket sizes. You don't have to own the property or the infrastructure asset. REITs and InvITs come up with an IPO also, and or a follow-up offer also, similar to equity. So you can subscribe in the IPO, or you can also purchase it in the stock markets. The public InvITs and the REITs are available for subscription for daily purchase and sale in the stock markets. The process of bidding, everything is similar to how it happens in equity. So your investors are required to pay the full bid amount and block the money through at the time of bidding. So the allotment will only be in dematerialized form. You need the details of depository, PAN, client ID. You need to fill application forms. And the units of REITs and InvITs are listed on stock exchange within 12 days from the close of the issue. Now, as an investor, when I put money in REITs and InvITs, what do I like to know? I would like to know what are my rights. I'm investing money in REITs and InvITs. The rights are I will get distributions, which will be the underlying income coming to me through as distributions. I will get to vote on all matters related to borrowing, acquisition of new assets. The REITs can bring in new assets into the trust. So I can vote on that. I can vote on all related party matters. I can vote on changes in investment manager, any change in sponsor, any change in control of the sponsor, I can vote. If a sponsor wants to exit, that also I have to approve. I get all periodic reports, gives me more insight about my investment. I'm not an expert in taxation though, but taxation aspect is dividend income is exempt in the hands of the unit holders if the trust follows the old regime. There's an interest income, which there's a withholding tax on interest income on non-resident investors at 5% and withholding tax on interest income for domestic investors at 10%. On of units of REITs and InvITs on stock exchange, long-term capital gains accrue. Now, the following regulations are there to protect the interest of investors of InvITs, even REITs it is there. SEBI REITs Regulation 2014, SEBI InvIT Regulation 2014, LODR, Listing and Obligation Disclosure Requirements. There's a prohibition of insider trading regulation. The FEMA Act comes into place for investment for FPIs and REITs and InvITs. The other tax which the REITs and InvITs have to comply are the Companies Act, Indian Trust Act, and the Competition Act. So it is a well-regulated segment within the securities. Now, as an investor, there are certain points which we need to ponder over while investing in REITs and InvITs. As much as there are benefits of investing, I will get exposure to rental income. I'll get exposure to infrastructural assets, the income accrued through infrastructure assets, but there are disadvantages also. Now, if there is a natural calamity or if there is a lockdown kind of situation, which we all recently encountered, there will be a drop in commercial rental income. There will be a drop, or there was a drop in the toll collection. So what happens in those cases is it directly affects the unit holders. The income inflow reduces, even can go to a nil level. So if there is no income, the asset doesn't earn a rental income or any income, you don't get any income because your income is dependent on the underlying assets income. So due to any natural calamity or anything, there is a possibility. So the risk factors are mentioned in the offer documents. So the investor is requested to read the offer documents before moving into investment in REITs and InvITs. Of course, there's a stability of income. We have to invest in InvITs and REITs, which will offer better transparency. The offer document will give complete insight into what kind of assets are the underlying assets. So you can take an informed investment decision. So the investor has to do due diligence before investing and should not depend on any market rumors associated with it. So I think my presentation is over. We can go into the question and answer session, if any.
Right now, no questions have come on the chat box. May I request participants to kindly post your questions on Q&A box or chat box and address it to all panelists so that both ma'am and I can see it, and she will take up the query. Ma'am, if you can wait for 1 or 2 minutes so that, thank you. And there seems to be no questions. So, ma'am, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
There seems to be no questions. So, I think we can wind up. Chairman, if you want to.
Maybe we can also request ma'am to having a great exposure and experience in terms of mutual funds and its management policy making. Certain tips and things that you could share with us, ma'am, especially being auditors or advisors to a lot of clients, or for we know many chartered accountants are are on the self investor mode. So maybe some experiences you could share, some tips you could share for the
I
overall
won't be able to
interest.
share tips. I can give you a broad idea that, you know,
Perfect.
just as much as we plan to do things in our daily life, mutual funds is an avenue or an investment avenue which, you know, if you invest properly, make a planning properly, it will give you good returns. So, as an investor, you have to do your risk profiling. What is the risk I'm ready to take? How many years? What is my investment, you know, horizon? So based on that, I have to make the investment decision. So many different kinds of mutual fund schemes are available in the market. So as an investor, we will have to see if it is for a short-term period, you can invest in liquid funds or debt funds. If it is for long-term period, more than 5 to 7 years, the option is always for equity funds. If you are a less risk-averse investor, always there is, you know, large cap stocks, large cap mutual fund. If you're a more riskier investor, there would be a mid or small cap segment. Also, there is dividend yield mutual fund schemes where, you know, you can invest for the sake of getting dividends. So the underlying investment will be in dividend yielding companies. Also, another option which is available is going into index funds. Index funds follow an index, so you get the capital appreciation as much as the index moves. And today we all know indexes moved up quite high. And I think the basic risk documents, the scheme information documents, give quite a bit of information about mutual fund for common investors. The riskometer which is there is also, you know, kind of gives a information. So it shows the risk level which a mutual fund scheme is undertaking. And any change in riskometer is also informed to the investor today, so that, you know, the investor can make an informed investment decision. So as an investor, I think, you know, it's a good investment avenue, and mutual funds are meant for retail investors also. So I think, you know, the planning and investment, you should go to a financial advisor and take advice and give your risk appetite, your investment horizon, and the financial advisor should be able to suggest a mutual fund for you.
Members are requested to probably raise your questions or doubts that you might have in your REIT and InvIT, and also on the mutual funds.
Maybe going forward, we will have a mutual fund. I'm just assuming there's nothing on cards. We'll have a mutual fund on REITs and InvITs. That would be, you know, for the common man, rather retail investor.
So
Chairman.
I guess we can wind up
Yeah.
in that case.
Dear Deena ma'am, it was really an immense pleasurable presentation. Oh, very, very valuable inputs that you have given us on real estate investment as well as on infrastructure investment trust. Thank you so much for taking time out of your busy schedule and taking us through the nuances of these two. It was. I don't know who else could have talked so much about this. You know, you coming directly with 17 years of experience in SEBI. Thank you so much for joining us in Ernakulam branch this evening virtually.
Thank you, everyone.
Yeah, and dear panelists, dear managing committee members, thank you for your continued patronage. We have successfully carried out yet another 3-day virtual webinar.